Yeah, I think that there are other actors who would say, what we need to do is shoot up a feminist rally or a Black Lives Matter rally and leave clues pointing at the conservatives, because they know for a fact that the media would not look at it critically as a false flag in any way. They would run with the narrative immediately. We saw this in Syria with what is, I would say, at least an 80-20 chance it was a false flag attack against Assad. I mean, it makes no sense, the timing.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 100%.
The media ran with the story. The media just went with it as if it was an established fact.
Here is the perfect scenario for the corporate fake news press, the fake news television media, the CNNs, the MSNBCs of the West. Their perfect scenario right now that they would be foaming at the mouth to report on would be a situation, whether it be a shooting or, let's say, a bombing or anything like that, some major event, some catastrophe, perhaps even, mass casualty event, that they can spin and then blame on conservatives, blame on Republicans, blame on the alt-right. You've seen them try it before. They tried it with the Charlottesville thing. That failed. They tried it by saying that Trump supporters are violent at their rallies. That narrative failed. It was always the leftists going and starting violence. Same thing happened in Charlottesville. So they need a mass event that they can either blame on conservatives or blame on retired members of the military and veterans. And it's a talking point that they've been bringing up for a long time. They've tried to pin it to Alex Jones. They try to pin it to conservative media. So that would be their perfect event. And if they think they can get some wind-up doll to go out there in a controlled event where he's already on their radar, he's already brought up red flags, and you let him go, but then you control the situation because he's already on your radar, so then you can blame it on, oh, he maybe watched an Alex Jones video or a Paul Joseph Watson video or something, and then they create a media narrative that says we caused him to do that, now we have to be shut down. And the background is all the lawsuits. The background is all the fake news on Alex Jones. So, Matt Bracken, you're the expert on this, enemiesforeignanddomestic.com. You've written multiple books about this. What do you think they're thinking right now in the media? Because you had the ISIS propaganda coming out, and they have their gun aimed at CNN, which I think is total BS. I think CNN loves ISIS. I think, so I don't know why that would happen. It kind of seems like maybe fake propaganda there. But what do you think the media would do if an event like this happened? I mean, we say, hey, this looks like it might be a radical Islamic terror attack, and they attack us, but they would jump on a narrative as soon as they could if they could blame it on a Trump supporter.
Yeah, and I think they would goad Trump supporters or someone that could be portrayed as, from the alt-right if they could. But, over since the year and a half since Trump's been elected, we've seen the assassination of Trump in the park by, a well-known group of theatrical players, stabbing Trump to death, or holding up his bloody head. These are signals to the loose cannons that you'll be praised, you'll be somebody, your worthless life will have meaning if you make our dreams come true and assassinate the president. But I think that there are other actors who would say, what we need to do is shoot up a feminist rally or a Black Lives Matter rally and leave clues pointing at the conservatives, because they know for a fact that the media would not look at it critically as a false flag in any way. They would run with the narrative immediately. We saw this in Syria with what is, I would say, at least an 80-20 chance it was a false flag attack against Assad. I mean, it makes no sense, the timing.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 100%.
The media ran with the story. The media just went with it as if it was an established fact before there was any proof, and there still is no proof. But they ran with it as an established fact to the point of firing missiles. So, yeah, the media would immediately say, this is the conservatives. They've just done a massacre. It's another reason to go after guns. I think if it happens, it will definitely be a gun, probably an AR-15.
Yeah, then they can use the narrative not only against conservatives, but then, of course, go after the guns. That's one of their favorite things to do. But again, Go
I
ahead.
would have never thought this before, but after Garland, Texas, with an actual active duty, card carrying FBI special agent following behind the terrorists, goading them to commit mass murder for a political objective, I wouldn't be surprised if the FBI has its eye on certain loose cannons that are roaming around right now. And depending on the political desires, either stopping them or dropping the ball again, depending on the desired outcome. For example, if these Strzok page messages have bombshells in them that are, going to completely blow up Mueller's investigation and make the Democrats look like, look like traitors and Russian colluders, that's when then one of these wind-up dolls, the FBI might suddenly lose track of him, and then something happens.
Well, let's be perfectly clear. That's what happened in Florida. The FBI knew Cruz was on the watch list. I mean, dozens, if not hundreds of red flags, totally knew who he was, and then there was the stand down at the scene. So you got that aspect of things. And then you talk about the controlled aspect of, is the FBI behind this or CIA? We now have the documents that just got released, unintentionally apparently, how the government can use radiation coming out of cell phones to manipulate your mind and put voices in your head. So then you got that aspect of you got crazies out there, plus some crazy technology a government or some other entity has where they can hack into your cell phone and then use that to literally control you like MK Ultra. People say, oh, you're crazy. No, look it up. These are published documents. They use electronic waves to manipulate your mind and make you act crazy. It's like right out of the movie Kingsman. And so we're dealing with all of this, but people need to understand that the media will try to create a narrative. That's what it's all about. It's all about creating a narrative, just like hands up, don't shoot. Never happened, totally disproven in the courts, yet still to this day they do hands up, don't shoot. Just like still to this day they say, oh, gay frogs are a real thing. There's no scientific evidence. So it's all about creating that first narrative, and then that sinks into the brainwashed people's minds. The truth never penetrates.
Yeah, I'm reading. I don't know why it took me so long. Right now, I'm reading a terrific book, one of the best books I've ever read, American Betrayal by Diana West, and it gets into this. In the 50s and 60s, really starting in the 30s, the communist networks were covered up so effectively. McCarthy ended up being the villain, and he was a hero.
Yeah, he was
and
right.
What people remember of that era is red baiting and communists under the bed, and it became a joke, a running gag. But it really happened. And the objective neutral truth really doesn't matter anymore. It's what narrative can be pounded home over and over again. That's why we've seen hundreds of movies with the German Third Reich Nazis as the villains, and you can count on one hand any movies that portrayed global communism, Russian, Chinese, Cambodian, any of them, as the great villains that they were, killing at least 100 million in the 20th century. So objective reality is not as important as keeping a false narrative going with a drumbeat of lies, and it works. Brainwashing works. It absolutely works. And there's no doubt in my mind. That thing about the mind control that was leaked from the Fusion Center or dropped out by the Fusion Center, I don't think that would work on normal people. But if they've got somebody who's already hearing voices, they can probably dial him up or dial him down. Provoke him, for example, turn him into a really rabid lunatic from just a simmering lunatic. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't think that there's any federal agents out there doing it right now, but for goodness sake, after Garland, we have to be very suspicious that they might accidentally drop the ball again. Mueller, it's so funny. Mueller, when he was head of the FBI, that was when they gutted the realistic counter-jihad training. So you can make an actual case that Fort Hood, Boston, San Bernardino, Orlando, and many other attacks, they happened because the FBI's had blinders put on them. Mosques were put out of bounds for surveillance. This would be like in the 1930s if the German-American Bund was put out of bounds for surveillance, and you needed to talk to a Nazi about true Nazi culture because we can't be Germanophobic. But that's where we are today. We're in a land of
well, that's the
false
problem.
narratives.
Most Americans don't know their history, and they don't know the lies that the media has been reporting on for years that they never correct. And you're going to talk more of this in the next hour as well. And just real quick, you mentioned the stroke page texts that are about to come out and potential bombshells there. To me, we already have all the bombshells. We know what's in the text. We know it all. Everybody knows. Until these people actually get arrested and get tried in court and have to testify under oath, nothing's going to matter. That's the day this stuff matters. Until then, it probably doesn't. But the key is that InfoWars can get the narrative out there that the television news is not going to report. And that's why your support at InfoWarsStore.com is so imperative, folks. I didn't do a good job plugging while I sat in for Alex here. So please go to InfoWarsStore.com. In fact, we've got meetings going on right now. Well, I won't say, but they really want to try to shut us down, okay? I mean, the attempts to shut us down are real, folks. And we could sit here and talk about it 3 hours a day and give you all the gruesome details, but that's not what the audience wants. But please support us at InfoWarsStore.com. Huge specials, 50% off Super Male Vitality, Super Blue fluoride-free toothpaste. It's all at InfoWarsStore.com.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Gonna hit me? Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
Over 20 years ago, Alex Jones created the media platform called InfoWars, and in the decades since, it's grown into a truly remarkable institution with over 200 radio affiliates, tens of millions of unique website visitors monthly, and a 24/7 live news TV channel broadcasting from state-of-the-art studios in Austin, Texas. InfoWars has become the most trusted independent news source in the country, dedicated to delivering breaking news, live coverage of special events, and exclusive reports you won't find anywhere else. While the old guard media struggles to maintain supremacy in a landscape rocked by innovation and technology, InfoWars has been at the forefront of the information revolution. From 8 million radio listeners, over 2 million YouTube subscribers, or the billions of views of our online content, InfoWars proves dominant in every facet of media we enter. For the hardest-hitting reports, uncompromising analysis, for high-profile interviews and bombshell revelations, accept no substitutes. Demand truth. Demand InfoWars. InfoWars. Tomorrow's news today.
One of the things I'm really proud of is the fact that doing my own research and talking to top scientists, we knew that there was an iodine conspiracy.
Iodine is in every cell of your body.
Iodine deficiency is the commonest preventable cause of brain damage and loss of IQ in the world.
In fact, over 90% of Americans are low in iodine.
Iodine used to be used in bread as a dough enhancer. Then in the early 1970s, most commercial manufacturers switched to bromide instead.
Since 1970, the iodine they collected in urine is 50% less now than it was then.
Research from a World Health Organization study show that 10 to 50% of people worldwide are deficient in iodine.
Most people, I think everybody, for the most part, should be supplementing with iodine.
And I am so proud of the fact that since I've been promoting iodine in the last 5-6 years, it is now all the rage at health food stores, you name it. But none of them are as pure or as clean as the original Survival Shield X2 at InfoWarsLife.com. I was just about to walk out of the studio to go pick my children up, and I got some bad news. For the second time in the 5.5-year history of Survival Shield X2, our flagship product, we are having supply chain problems, and this may be the last batch of this. You see, we have to go through the DEA to get this because it is pure atomic iodine. Everything else out there is bound or it's contaminated. It's not absorbable. It's toxic. We have deep earth crystal source that's so pure that it actually turns into purple gas in the atmosphere, and it's injected into palm oil, organic palm oil, in a proprietary patented process. And so in our own search to get the purest form, we discovered that oil companies and gas drilling companies had a byproduct that they were selling to pharmaceutical companies and also drug makers that they used to make drugs. That's why the FDA is involved, and that's why the DEA is involved. So it's a major industrial product being used, and that we could actually bring it to the public pure. But you've got to get contracts with oil companies and gas companies to do it. And once they figure out there's a market, they start jacking up the price. So we have a run of this, a limited run. We have a good supply right now. We're talking maybe 2 months of it. But this may be the clincher. We may not have X2 in this configuration in the future. But we're offering it still 25% off until it sells out. Hopefully, just like the last time this happened a few years ago, it's not an issue and we do get more. But right now, we are not able to secure the crystals that produce the purest iodine from our own research and the test in the world. Survival Shield X2 at InfoWarsStore.com and InfoWarsLife.com. And you've got to experience what having the good halogen in your body does. Most folks in about 3 weeks go through a detoxification process, but what it does just for stamina, libido, focus, energy is really amazing. And if you don't have true iodine, pure iodine, you will end up having all sorts of disorders, just like water, just like oxygen. Without iodine, it is an essential element. It's available exclusively. Survival Shield X2 at InfoWarsLife.com and InfoWarsStore.com. And I hope, like a few years ago, that we can work this out. It's just right now we're kind of over a barrel, so I want listeners and viewers and everybody to know this stuff has a very, very long shelf life. I personally have stockpiled it, and your purchases fund the operation fighting for free speech, the Second Amendment, national sovereignty. So it is a true 360 win. Again, the term I coined, or what they said before, a non-zero sum game. So get your Survival Shield X2 today, along with other great products, at InfoWarsLife.com, and fund the tip of the spear in the fight for free speech and human dignity worldwide. This could potentially be the end of Survival Shield X2 as we know it. If you love the original like I do and thousands of others have, it's available now for a limited time at InfoWarsStore.com.